Okay, so the best advice is to be able to walk around it that way. The big cut going to 155 is bad. But Makhachev's, I'm going to tell you, somebody was telling me, who do you think's a better wrestler? Was it Makhachev or was it Khabib? And I think Makhachev is a better grappler, honestly.
However, Tony Ferguson said that Islam moving up to 170 is a major step, and at the same time, Ilia Topuria is going from 145 to 155 to fight Charles Oliveira. Tony pointed out that someone always has to step up and fight for the belt, and Islam has already defended his lightweight title 4 times while always making weight, which shows real discipline. He called the move a smart one, saying that when fighters go up a division, it's often about building a legacy, not just taking on bigger opponents. In Tony's view, Islam is following a path similar to his cousin Khabib, looking to dominate in a new weight class and leave behind something lasting in the sport.
There's a big lightweight title fight the end of June, UFC 317, for a vacant title because Islam.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you have Islam Makhachev that went up north, right? To 170, and then you have Ilia Topuria from 45. He's going to go up to 55 to fight who?
Charles Oliveira.
Chuck. Okay. I mean, look, when it goes into it, you have to have somebody fucking fight the belt. I mean, Makhachev fought how many times at 55?
He defended it 4 times.
That's much more, you know what I mean? And he made weight, you know what I mean? So, I mean, when it goes into it and you have that, I think that's a smart move. When you go up, you're going to, you're going to try to build legacy. You're going to do certain things like that. And he's going to run like his cousin.
Tony said people always debate whether Khabib is the lightweight GOAT or if Islam has passed him, but he admitted he hasn't been paying much attention. He doesn't watch the sport like others do because when he was competing, whether in MMA or even football, he was always focused on performing and helping the next generation. He believes every fighter has their own reasons for why they fight and win, so it's hard to say who's better. He mentioned that he and Khabib were actually supposed to coach against each other on The Ultimate Fighter, and everything had been signed, but it didn't happen. That was around the time Khabib didn't corner his cousin, so clearly there were serious personal things going on. Tony said he never wishes bad luck on anyone and just supports the idea of fighters continuing to build their own legacies.
They always have that lightweight GOAT debate, is Khabib the GOAT? Do you think that Islam has surpassed him?
I'm going to be real. I really haven't paid attention. Like, I don't watch this sport, not like a lot of other people do. When I was in it, that's like even for football, and like we have championship rings and championship belts. I'm just so damn busy, like just competing in the sport and making sure that the next generation is going to do the right thing, and it's fucking awesome. So when it goes into who's a better fighter, I mean, each fighter's their own. I can't say one's better than the other. I think to each person, they have certain purpose why they fight and why they win. And I think that's completely different in Khabib's case. Matter of fact, Khabib and I, we were supposed to coach against each other in The Ultimate Fighter, and everything was signed. I don't know if anybody knows that, but that was around the time that him and his cousin, he didn't corner him in that fight. So he had some pretty big stuff that was going on. So, I mean, who knows with certain things, but you never wish bad luck for people, but just keep building the legacies, I guess.
Moreover, Charles Oliveira said it's a tough fight to call because Jack Della Maddalena doesn't go for quick knockouts. He breaks opponents down gradually. That's what he did in his fight against Belal. Charles believed Islam would do really well at this weight, especially now that he's stronger and focused on grappling and taking fighters down. He felt that if Jack used the same strategy he did against Belal, striking, moving, avoiding damage, and slowly wearing his opponent down, it could be a close fight. But if Islam managed to close the distance, grab him and take him down, it would be a different outcome.
Quem que você acha que ganha entre o Jack Della Maddalena e o Islam?
Maddalena, ele é um jogo muito complicado, porque ele é um cara que ele não vem pra te nocautear rápido, ele vem pra te finalizar, ele vem te magoando, né?
Aos poucos, né?
Aos poucos. Foi o que ele fez agora na luta contra o Bilal. Só que eu acho que o Islam vai se dar muito bem nessa categoria, né, mano? Agora vai estar muito mais forte, é um jogo que, tipo, ele gosta de agarrar e botar pra baixo. Eu acho que o Jack Maddalena fazia a mesma luta que ele fez, né? Agora contra o Bilal, batendo, movimentando, saindo, machucando, é uma luta, mas se deixar o Islam agarrar e botar pra baixo é o time.
Renato Moicano said the odds should be even though Islam is a strong grappler and was already big for 155. Moving up to 170 changes things. Renato believed Islam would need time to properly adjust putting on weight, gaining power, and building the strength needed for the welterweight division. Because of that, he felt it was fair for the fight to be seen as evenly matched.
So Islam versus JDM.
I think they probably should be even, because even though Islam is a good grappler, he's big for 155. He's moving to 170. We never know, I think he needs to take some time to work on to gain weight, to gain power, to gain strength. So that's why the odds are even, and I think they should be even.
However, Tony Ferguson said the best advice is to walk around closer to your fight weight because making a big cut to 155 can be rough. He shared that during a trip to Dubai, he cut from around 170 something down to 164.5 and overdid it. He wasn't paying attention, didn't take an IV, and ended up feeling really sick. He emphasized that if no one is monitoring your weight and you're constantly fluctuating, it becomes harder to maintain your weight and even harder to put healthy weight back on after the cut.
But you also fought at 170. So how do you think Islam will do when he fights JDM for that 170 belt?
Okay, so the best advice is to be able to walk around at that weight. The big cut going to 155 is bad. I mean, if you're able to, because even mine when I went to Dubai, like I cut from 70 something to like 64 and a half. I overdid it, wasn't paying attention. I should have took an IV. I was sick of shit. If you're not having somebody monitor your weight and you're doing that and you're fluctuating, you're going to develop like a harder time to keep that weight and like put more weight on after it.
Tony said someone once asked him who he thought was the better wrestler, Makhachev or Khabib. He said he honestly thinks Makhachev is the better grappler. In Tony's view, Makhachev is a little faster, stronger, and more fluid overall. And while Khabib was dominant, he seemed a bit more cautious about the freestyle style that Makhachev brings. And Tony believed Makhachev wouldn't do badly at 170 and would probably handle the move up just fine, especially with his wrestling base and ability to adapt quickly.
But Makhachev's, I'm going to tell you, somebody was telling me, who do you think's a better wrestler? Was it Makhachev or was it Khabib? And I think Makhachev is a better grappler, honestly. I think he's a little bit faster. I think with Khabib, I think he's just a little bit more, not timid of the freestyle that Makhachev presents, but I think Makhachev, he's not going to do so bad at 170. I think he'll be all right.
Moreover, Stephen Thompson gave his thoughts on the challenges Islam Makhachev might face as he moves up to welterweight. He recognized Islam's grappling skills and natural strength, but emphasized that many welterweights cut down from over 205 pounds, which could make the size and power gap a real obstacle. While Jack Della Maddalena may not be much taller than Islam, Thompson pointed out that the overall physicality at 170 is on a different level. He acknowledged Islam's high-level ground game, but reminded that Jack has already faced strong wrestlers like Bilal Muhammad. Thompson said the fight would be far from easy for Islam, but admitted he's very intrigued by the matchup and hopes the UFC books it.
I don't know, man. I mean, when you're going up to the welterweight division, those are some big boys. And I know Islam Makhachev walks around fairly heavy, but a lot of these 170s, they walk around real heavy. I'm talking about, over 205, 210 to the 215. Some of the guys that I've faced would walk around at that weight. I think like the height, I think they might be the same height. I think JD might be a little taller, but when it comes to those guys and their strength, Islam, I think, is going to have a tough time. Now, do I think he could get it done? Yes. I think he's that good of a grappler. But like I said, JDM has faced some of the best welterweight grapplers and wrestlers in the division. Bilal being one of them. I think it's going to be a tough night for him. I would like to see Islam fight Topuria. That's just me. I would love to see that fight happen. But if he comes up, we'll see what the UFC gets behind. And we all know you got to convince the UFC to make it happen. And you do that first by getting on Twitter, shouting it out, and get people talking about it. And that's what Islam did. So we'll see if that fight happens with JDM.
Daniel Cormier described a potential fight between Jack Della Maddalena and Islam Makhachev as an exciting, high-stakes matchup with plenty riding on it. He said that if Jack continues building momentum, the bout becomes even more intriguing, especially with Islam moving up to a new weight class. While Cormier acknowledged Islam's power and elite grappling, he questioned how well those strengths would carry over against someone with Jack's size and physical frame. He also mentioned reports of Islam cutting weight for a possible fight during International Fight Week, which made him wonder if Islam would have enough time to properly add size and adjust to the physical challenges of the welterweight division.
It's a big-time fight, and if Jack Della looks the way he did last weekend, it's very, very intriguing fight. Because we've never seen Islam Makhachev fight up at 170 pounds. We've never seen it. We've never seen him have to compete up 15 more pounds. Yes, he is a big dude. But in terms of full-on stature, is he big as Jack Della Maddalena is? And also, if he thought he may fight International Fight Week, how small had he gotten? And how much time does he have to put the weight back on the right way before he moves up to 170.
Cormier also emphasized that the real draw of the fight isn't just the technique, it's the story behind it. With Jack Della Maddalena newly crowned as the welterweight champion after a tough battle against Belal Muhammad, and now potentially facing Islam Makhachev, a dominant lightweight champion moving up, the narrative practically writes itself. Cormier said this kind of champion versus champion matchup, especially with the added tension of a weight class jump, creates natural excitement. While the technical analysis will come with time, he believes it's the drama, the unknowns, and the high stakes that make this possible fight so compelling right now.
Lot of questions. But it's a big time fight, and we'll get into the X's and O's as we get closer. But right now, we're talking the story. We're talking about a guy that just beat Belal Muhammad to become champion, now getting challenged by a 155-pound champion.
Navajo Sterling shared his thoughts on a potential matchup between Islam Makhachev and Jack Della Maddalena, saying he believes JDM would completely dominate the fight. According to Sterling, the bout would be so one-sided that any talk of a future Islam versus Ilia Topuria matchup would lose its appeal. He highlighted JDM's size and sharp striking, especially from mid-range, as major problems for Islam, making it difficult for him to close the distance or go for takedowns. Sterling also pointed out that unlike some of Islam's past fights, he wouldn't have a size advantage to lean on in this one.
You picked JDM to win. Now he's got a big challenge in his first title defense against Islam. Do you think he's got what it takes to beat an Islam Makhachev in his first defense?
People are going to say it's a wild take, but I reckon JDM smokes Islam. Shins him so bad. It's going to be so bad that the Topuria Islam thing will just be gone.
So you think Islam's wrestling won't be a threat to JDM just because he's a lot bigger?
He's a lot bigger, and like when you watch JDM, like you put him on the end of mid-range, he's just going to throw. That's hard to like shoot in on. He's not going to be able to just abuse his size against him either. I think Islam's in for a rude awakening.
MMA analyst Luke Thomas praised Jack Della Maddalena for his standout striking in his recent bout, acknowledging that while Belal Muhammad also had a strong performance, Jack's striking was clearly a level above. However, Thomas didn't overlook the flaws in Jack's game. He pointed out noticeable gaps in his defense and some risky, poorly timed takedown attempts that could put him in trouble. Thomas cautioned that against someone like Islam Makhachev, who is known for his precision, control, and ability to exploit small openings, those mistakes could prove costly in a high-level matchup.
You knew the striking prowess of JDM, if he could just have enough time to get it going, would be enough. I think Muhammad somewhat overperformed relative to expectations, but in the end, JDM was better. But the defensive lapses, to me, I know we have to focus on like how good JDM is as a striker, but what could have cost him here was the incompleteness of his defense. And to me, he took a quantum leap forward today in showing how good that was. Now, again, trying to turn that defense into offense by trying to go for some of those ill-advised takedowns, especially in the fifth, and then you're getting kind of lateral dropped for it. You do that against Islam, and I think that's a huge mistake. Islam just doesn't make a lot of mistakes, right? He doesn't necessarily have, at times, always the flashiest offense. I mean, he does have very good offense. We're talking about the pound-for-pound #1 guy in the sport. But what really defines him is that he makes very, very good decisions.
Thomas also expressed his excitement about Islam Makhachev making the move to welterweight. While he acknowledged that a fight between Makhachev and Ilia Topuria would be exciting, he said he was even more intrigued by how Islam might fare at 170 pounds. Thomas recognized that the jump in weight class wouldn't be simple, and that success isn't guaranteed, but he highlighted the massive opportunity it brings. For Islam, it's a chance to chase a second belt and cement his legacy as a two-division champion, something only a few fighters in MMA history have achieved.
Islam up at 170 to me is exciting. I know what everyone's going to say. Oh my God, the best fight you could have made in MMA was Ilia versus Islam. I'm not denying it. I'm not in any way asking you to feel differently about what was the best fight that could be made. But here's what I am trying to tell you. Islam up at 170 could be something really special. It could fizzle too, but I'm trying to point out the positives. It could be really special. For him to become a double champ could be a very big deal.
Thomas explained that while Islam Makhachev is likely to face Jack Della Maddalena next, a future fight with Ilia Topuria is still very much on the table. He said that even if Islam comes up short in a competitive bout at welterweight, he could still return to lightweight and face Topuria down the line. Thomas shared his excitement about Islam moving to 170, saying the move has the potential to deliver something truly special for fans, especially if Islam decides to stay in the division division for more than just one fight. He also emphasized that Makhachev has earned the right to chase a second title, pointing to his track record and willingness to take big risks, like facing Alexander Volkanovski twice, as clear signs of his mindset and desire to test himself against the best.
Just because you're going to get, it looks like, Makhachev and JDM next, doesn't mean you actually can't get Makhachev and Ilya at some point. It could be he goes up against JDM and maybe he doesn't get his ass kicked, but maybe he just kind of loses and you're like, oh, all right. Then you go back to 55 and you can see what's up after that. So it's not even a case that you can't get it. But my point is, Islam at 170, if he gives us 3 or maybe even 4 of those, is a treat as far as I'm concerned. Like him vying for double champ status, he's earned it. He gave Volkanovski 2 cracks. He accepted one of those on short notice, and I know it was like shorter notice for Volkanovski, but you know, nevertheless, accepting to fight Alexander Volkanovski on very, very short notice is still risky no matter who you are and no matter how much prep. And he gave him both of those. He did one of those fights in Volkanovski's home country. He's earned it. He's earned it. He's absolutely earned it.
Javier Mendez said it's tough to say whether Jack Della Maddalena would be Islam Makhachev's hardest opponent to date, but made it clear that Islam wants the fight and is fully prepared for the challenge. He praised Islam's elite skill set and tireless work ethic, pointing out that Makhachev operates at a level Jack hasn't experienced before. Mendez believes that if the matchup happens, fans will see Islam at its absolute best. He also noted that the move to welterweight makes sense for Islam physically, as he won't be undersized and will bring real strength and competitiveness to the division.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say if he's a harder challenge. I just know Islam wants this one. So for me, that's the challenge I want, and it's the challenge that I know Islam's going to be, supreme over, because I just know his skill set. I know what he brings to the table, and he brings an incredible work ethic along with skill set in every area. So, Islam is a whole different animal than the Jack's ever been involved with. So if that fight does materialize, we're going to see a hell of a fight, and you're going to see Islam perform at an absolute incredible level. And also, the weight is not super big for him either. So he's going to be a fairly decent welterweight. So Islam won't be a small guy. He'll be a decent welterweight if that fight materializes.
Henry Cejudo predicted that Islam Makhachev would beat Jack Della Maddalena and claim a second UFC title, calling it a logical next step in Islam's legacy-building journey. In contrast, Kamaru Usman backed Jack, highlighting his composure under pressure, and saying he believes Jack has the tools to successfully defend his welterweight belt. Both Cejudo and Usman agreed that the fight is likely to happen in October in Abu Dhabi, which means any potential matchup between Makhachev and Ilia Topuria is on pause for now.
I think Islam Makhachev is going to beat him. I think he's going to become the 11th double champ in UFC history.
Islam tweeted, "Keep it shiny, keep it nice for me." JDM, it was kind of like the perfect comeback. He was just like, yeah, come get it.
Keep my belt clean. Okay, so the talking has begun, dude. That fight is set. That fight's going to take place in October, Abu Dhabi. I think we all know that. We're no longer going to get Ilya versus Islam Makhachev just now.
That's it for today's video. So what are your thoughts on this? What do you think about Islam moving up to 170? We would love to hear your thoughts, so share your thoughts in the comment section and make sure to subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video. Also check out our other videos on the screen right now.